Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hands. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defenders, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth, be ours forever. Amen. I was about 4 or 5 when my parents woke me in a frenzy and dashed out the house. Up until that point, I had lived my whole life in complete joy. Can you imagine that? Close your eyes and think about your happiest moment. I mean, think about how it feels in your body, in your mind. That was my whole life. I mean, to be fair, my life was not very big, obviously. But however small it was, my life was completely filled with joy and love and happiness. So I did not understand the need for the frenzy. I mean, something was happening. My dad held me and ran. And as we got closer, I realized there was a fire. It was the biggest fire I had ever seen. And again, to be fair, my world is not very big, so, but I can tell you this. The look on my parents' face told me that this was the biggest fire they had ever seen. The tenement yard was filled with houses that were old and made of wood. I mean, perfect to fuel a fire. And by the time we got there, there was just nothing we could do. We just stood there together and watched the fire burn. It was the most magnificent thing I'd ever seen. We just watched as the fire it took ferociously and impartially. It took homes that had been homes for generations, from mothers and fathers, and even the old man Benjamin that lived next door, that always had butterscotch to give the children who bothered him, because if they were sucking on sweets, they wouldn't make that much noise. I've never seen or experienced anything so magnificent until do you know why onions make us cry? Well, there is this acid called sulfuric acid. It's the kind of acid that mimics the burns of fire on flesh. Onions have within it the makings of that acid, just shy of that acid. And when you cut open an onion, you open the floodgate for amino acids and enzyme that mix together and make sulfonic acid. And that becomes a gas and makes its way to your eyes, and your tear ducts wake up in a frenzy. And in an attempt to fight fire with water, tears. I believe tears without onions come because something burns. I mean, we just gazed at this fire, watching it burn. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard this sound that I've never heard before. And to be honest, as a child, one would think I'd be very familiar with that sound, but this was different. was the deepest, rawest, most potent wailing I had ever heard. There were these women who I knew, women who I didn't think it was possible to make such a sound. They were weeping at this might that had rendered us, all of us, powerless. They wept at the future that had just suddenly, without any warning, became unclear and dusty with ash. Eventually, everybody gathered in this open lot and made tents out of sheets. And that was when I knew, at 4 or 5, that home could never be a place again. Home had to be something else, something that could not be burnt or taken away. Home was this open lot with sheets for walls and tears without onions. Home was being in my father's arms and the pats on my back from my stepmother. Knowing that tomorrow I would leave school and go home and sit in my grandmother's lap and she would press her forehead against mine and smile. Home will eventually be in the dance, the dip and come in and catch. Home is in the rhythm, the one drop, drawing together Nyabingi and Gaza for life. Home is in a man and a sly blood clot. Home is in the garlic, the chopped onions, and the tears that well up in the corner of my eyes, washing out crosses and making way for loving. Home is in the Scotch bonnet, spicy, blazing a fire on the tip of my tongue, making my skin wet. Knowing that walking through hell leads to heaven sometimes. When the scallion and thyme and red peppers meet each other in the bacchanal, jumping juve in the fire, my gut reaches across time and bow to the Africans and the Maroons who marked themselves with blood and flesh in the flavors. These nourished generations that became me. And this is home.